Hello, this is Dr. Roger Elmer, Advanced Neurospinal Solutions, and the question is about biomechanics, because I talk a lot about biomechanics in here. And so what are biomechanics? Biomechanics are how does the body actually function and move, and what are the mechanics of how it works, and what makes it work better, what makes it work worse, and that. And so understanding biomechanics is a vital part of knowing how to take care of it. Like I always say, the closer you get to the truth, the simpler the solution. But also understanding the actual biomechanics are a part of what I call the why. Why are we going to fix this thing? Because if fixing it doesn't change anything, then why am I even fixing it? Right? It's kind of doesn't make much sense. So, but when we talk about biomechanics, we're talking about how does the system function best. Now, the spine itself, we'll talk about that, is governed by the head, and the head has the neural input from the eyes and from the head sensors to determine whether the entire rest of the structure of the body. We tend to say spine, but the entire body, of keeping you up with respect to gravity, giving you the tone of the muscles that give you rigidity against gravity. But when we talk about what does the spine do, one of its major roles is to protect the spinal cord. Spinal cord is a place that relays information, but also there's stuff that actually happens in there. Your ability to walk, we call it diadochokinesia, which your upper body goes one direction, your lower body goes in the other. That possibility happens because of essential pattern generators in the spinal cord. So that's a reflex in the cord, not up here in the brainstem, not up here in the brain. Now you modify up there, but that happens from here. And that's why when you're really good at moving and walking, you can do it without thinking about it because you can just let those reflexes roll, right? Well, when you're born with one curve, kind of like a fish. You were in water, and you were separating your mom from the rest of her body, right? You're pushing everything around. Well, then you were born, and mom puts you on the shoulder, and as she puts you on the shoulder, you started to look up a little bit. And it was the first time you had gravity coming through the top of your head rather than the bottom of your head. And you have sensors that sense gravity. Your utricle, saccule, they have a calcium carbonate crystals, and they feel the weight of gravity pulling down on them, and they relay that neurological the input into the brainstem and then up into the brain. But as you're on her shoulder, you're developing the ability to get rigid and hold your head up. And then eventually she takes you and puts you on her hip, and as she puts you on the hip, now I have to get control of the entire body all the way down to the butt, right? And then she's gonna put me on the floor, and I'm gonna look up for mom. Where's mom? And I'm gonna build a curve, and the muscles that support that curve, the reflex system that's going to drive it without me having to think about it, and it's going to start building the brain above it. Because all that sensory input, 80% of the brain is sensory. And so it's starting to build that whole system. Then we got this curve here. As we push up, our guts pull us forward. It's amazing because the kid looks fat, and they're not really fat. Their guts are big. They're big at the right time, and they're going to grow into them, but they pull down on this and start to put the curve in, and they start to crawl. And as they're crawling with this, they do what's called the cross crawl, which is where they're getting that alternating shoulders and hips in the opposite direction. That's why they go in a straight line now. Their first crawling is side to side. It's like a lizard or like an army man under barbed wire. And so we're putting that curve in, and that creates the structure of the spine, and it makes it so that these joints actually meet together the way they're supposed to, but also it makes sure that the spinal cord has no pressure on it. And so the biomechanics work perfectly. Also, it sets up a machine. We call it coupling. If you ask a doctor, they'll say coupling means that lateral flexion and rotation go together. Well, what it actually is, functionally, is when you lateral flex, you're converting the lateral flexion energy into rotation. So the trapezius muscle, the latissimus dorsi, and the quadratus lumborum, which are big broad-based levers, when you do lateral flexion, your curve, if you have one, when you left lateral flex, you're going to create or grind left lateral flexion into clockwise rotation every time. And that's what the coupling mechanism is. And so those are some of the things that are really important to understand in biomechanics, and then those things get turned into actual function neurologically, and we use those things to create things like thoughts and emotions and a life and a personality. Yeah, so but that's how important the biomechanics are, and that's the model. Hopefully that answers any questions. If you have more questions, please don't be afraid to ask. And remember, at Advanced Neurospinal Solutions, we're here when you're ready to take your life back.